everybody. Welcome to 2 Minutes and Beyond, the podcast where we review the Toy Story movies 2 minutes at a time. I'm Macy, and this is Bianca.
Hello.
Hello. Today we have something very exciting. We've got not one, but two guests with us this week. Guests, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah. Thanks for having us. Jesse's waving, but this is an audio-only podcast.
Oh, what a new mistake of me.
Yeah. My name is Jonason Pauley. Jesse, my friend here, and I are famous online for making Toy Story in real life. That was back in 2011, 2012. It premiered 2013, and we still get to talk about Toy Story sometimes. So that's why we're here. Thanks for having us. Jesse, you want to introduce yourself differently?
I'm Jesse Perrotta. Yes, the co-producer of JP and Beyond. Yes, we made live-action Toy Story. Specifically, was the name of it.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to say what it's called. Sorry.
Because in real life was the Toy Story 3 guys. That's what they branded theirs.
Oh, yeah. So I'm sorry. I did say in real life.
You did.
Sorry.
No, that's great. That's fine. So yes, I'm fellow Toy Story fanatic over here, and happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I guess to help introduce us, I should explain what that is for somebody who's has no idea. Although, if you're listening to this podcast, I think you'd be the perfect audience for live-action Toy Story. It's the shot-for-shot remake with real toys, real people, real dog, etc.
Yeah, I'll make sure and put a link to it in the show notes so that people can check it out.
You guys are gonna love it.
It was.
I'm sure a lot of our listeners have probably already seen it.
Maybe.
But in case you haven't, I'll put a link to it. So in this episode, we're talking about minutes 43 and 44 of Toy Story. Are you guys ready to get started?
Certainly. Let's do it.
Born ready. Yep.
So these 2 minutes start off with a mutant toy with metal spider legs and a shaved baby doll head walking out from under the bed. The baby doll head turns to reveal that one of its eyes is missing. Woody gasps and trembles in fear as the mutant toy rises up on its spider legs. Woody turns around to see a toy fishing pole with Barbie doll legs and a jack-in-the-box with a fake green hand attached to the spring. A couple of mutant toys come out from under the bed behind Woody and startle him, including a rolling, jingling toy with a Combat Carl head and a Mr. Potato Head arm who turns Woody's flashlight off. Woody freaks out, jumps back onto the bed, and climbs onto Buzz, yelling, "Buzz!"
That's minute one.
That's the first 30 or so seconds.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. I feel like Woody's expressions when he sees all the mutant toys are way scarier than the actual mutant toys themselves.
Yeah,
if you look really closely, maybe.
I mean, if you pause on when Babyface's head is rising in the foreground, and Woody's eyes are about to explode out of his head, and his mouth is so distorted and warped, and yeah, you don't see faces like that in the later Toy Story movies. I feel like it's just so. I don't know.
It's so out of place. Yeah.
It's just that early CGI nightmarish kind of stuff.
Woody has so many weird expressions in this movie.
He does.
Yeah.
And it's great.
It is.
I know.
And it is. Some of them, sometimes it's terrifying, but it's great.
Yeah, there's so many meme-worthy faces. Yeah, Woody's great.
We should say that the mutants have names, but nobody really knows them unless you have a book or bought a toy version of it or something.
Yeah.
So, most people say Spider
Babyface.
Baby, but his name is Babyface.
Although, interestingly, in the book that I have, we call our sacred text Toy Story, the art making of the animated feature, they refer to him as Babyhead, which I've never heard that anywhere else.
Weird.
Yeah.
I don't know, who... Something tells me one person wasn't in charge of, keeping the name consistent. I mean,
that
I don't know.
Be. I'm sure everybody has their own nicknames.
I feel like... I feel like within, the studio, I'm sure, different people just kind of called him something different, nobody... was everybody really making sure to always say the exact same name? Probably not, so...
Mm-hmm. I think we've talked on the podcast before about how about like some of the different things I was scared of as a kid, and like how easily I was scared of things like animatronics and things like that. But I was weirdly not scared of any of the mutant toys as a child. In fact, I loved Babyface. I was like, it's a baby doll with spider legs. I don't know why. I just really liked Babyface for some reason.
I think he's one of the coolest designed like characters from any movie. Like I always loved, Babyface. It's just such a cool design. I don't know, like how else I just like his walk animations and when they back in like. Okay, I feel like wasn't there a toy? Okay, besides the toy Babyface that's out now, wasn't there one that was out even older that I swear was actually metal, not like the one that's plastic? I mean, did I make that up or was that real?
I don't know about metal. The one that we had for our movie was one that was sold in stores, and he was plastic. I don't know if I know there's a 95 version of him sold somewhere, but I don't think it's metal. That seems.
Let's see.
I think the 95 version, I've only seen it like in pictures on eBay, but I feel like it's just like a plastic action figure.
Yeah.
I feel like me and my brother, like we had that toy, but I don't know why I can't like. I don't know. I feel like I had that, and maybe in my mind since I was a kid it was metal. But
maybe you bought it from a flea market and it was not real.
Right?
It was a knockoff, and it was dangerous.
I know there was a remote control one from the Disney store around the time Toy Story 3 came out, but I feel like that was probably just plastic.
Yeah, that's the one who's in our movie.
Oh, cool.
He's remote control. So the little tiny wheels couldn't really get across Sid's carpet very well, but we could tie him on a string and his legs move on his own if he's supposed to be walking, which is really cool. It's a very cool toy. His head doesn't actually turn, so that couldn't happen. In our version of the movie, he jumps at him like a jumping spider, and it's arguably more terrifying. Go watch our version and see which one's scarier.
I just did watch that part of you guys' version earlier today, and that was pretty scary.
Yeah, his head doesn't turn.
I remember like seeing that toy in the Disney store and like wanting it, but I was like a teenager with no money, and it was really expensive. It was like $100, something like that. Oh
yeah, so I got to go to the Disney. Well, I was just having a normal teenage visit to the Disney store. And he was normally like $50 or more, but he was on the clearance rack, and I should have bought all of them, but I just bought one for my own pleasure. And this was before we started making our movie. So once we did, it's like, oh, good thing I bought that, because who knows how much it would have cost us now.
Yeah. And we talked in our last episode that we recorded about how like Mattel has been making all these action figures including like a lot of toys that are like don't have a lot of merch usually, right. and I said they should make another Babyface action figure, and I would buy it like right away.
Or just some mutants. A lot of mutants don't have anything yet, so
yeah, that's true. I noticed that like when Woody jumps back onto the bed, he doesn't really climb onto the bed. He just kind of like flails all of his limbs and jumps and somehow gets up there.
It worked. Okay.
It's like a salmon going up a waterfall.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes across well enough in the movie. It's just funny.
Yeah, he does a lot of flailing.
Mm-hmm. I think that's my favorite aspect of the first movie, is that he is like the ultimate floppy ragdoll toy. So they just like ran with that, and they made him as flaily as possible.
Well, we talked before about how they based his movements off of Ray Bolger, who played the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Wow, you actually surprised me with that fact. I feel like it's really hard to surprise me with a Toy Story fact.
You know, our sacred text, Toy Story, the art and making of the animated feature, I've learned like a ton of stuff that I had no idea.
Yeah. Yep, I have it. I've read it. It's good.
It is good. But Woody climbing. Sorry, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was going to get, as long as we're throwing facts out there for people. I think I recall the commentary for this part of the movie, John Lasseter saying he had taken copies of the movie or, storyboard versions home and shown it to his kids to see, like, is this too scary? And if they hide their face completely, too scary. He wants them to keep watching. So if they're watching through their fingers, it's perfect. And this one made it. So that makes sense to me.
That's funny. Woody just like climbing onto Buzz in fear is hilarious.
Yeah. And some really good voice acting right there.
Mm-hmm.
Can you get that? Can you do it? Macy, Bianca, can you do the...
If I'm scared enough, maybe. But also I kind of just shut down when I'm scared. So probably not.
The opposite reaction.
I have the opposite reaction.
Tom Hanks is great at that kind of thing. That just like vocalizing these random like scared noises.
Mm-hmm.
He's so good.
As long as we're talking about that a little bit for a second, there's the story read along. If you used to be tapes and then it was CDs and now you could listen on Spotify or whatever, but it's where you get the little books and you read along with the story. And they use sound bites from the movie. For some reason, they didn't get this one. Because in the thing, like my son likes to listen to it still. And I remember as a kid being like, that's not the sound that he said. It's more like, so you can read along. It's a little bit slower. Buzz. That's not how he sounded in the movie.
That's not as good. I do like how later in what's it called? Toy Story That Time Forgot. They kind of, when Buzz and Woody are in like the arena fighting the battle swords, they kind of bring back the whole like Woody climbing on top of Buzz, like hiding behind him for protection.
Well, is the first time in the movie that you see Woody going to Buzz for help, right? Like, so he's getting to that turning point. He's getting desperate right now.
Right, he just it's like he wants to believe in Buzz's delusions at this moment to like save him. Like,
yeah, it's like this whole movie, he's just been making fun of Buzz, like trying to convince him that he's not a real space ranger. But then suddenly, when he feels like he's in danger, he's like he's just hiding behind him, like letting Buzz take the lead, like totally buying into like. Buzz as Buzz is taking charge of the situation.
And like we're not at that scene yet, but like he actually shields his eyes when Buzz tells him to. Like, it's just funny. Like
that's next. We'll talk about that next.
Yeah. So on to the next section. At 31 seconds, Buzz and Woody watch in horror as the mutant toys pick up the broken body parts of the doll and the pterodactyl. Buzz says, "They're cannibals," and Woody gasps and runs back into Sid's bag. Buzz follows him into the bag, presses the skinny red button on his suit, and says, "Mayday, Mayday, come in, Star Command, send reinforcements. Star Command, do you copy?" When they don't answer, he puts his hand on his laser and points it outside the bag, saying, "I've set my laser from stun to kill." Woody responds, "Great, yeah, and if anyone attacks us, we can blink them to death."
Star Wars reference number, what is this now? 10.
Oh, is that a Star Wars reference?
They set their phasers to stun so that they can
That's right.
not kill Leia at the very beginning. Phasers, not lasers, but still.
I feel like a bad Star Wars fan now for never catching that before.
Well, there's lots more opportunities for Star Wars references coming up throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, we've talked about... Clip. Oh, yeah. I mean, we've talked about a few of them, like Zurg creating a weapon with the potential to destroy an entire planet as an obvious Death Star.
But still, yeah.
Yeah. So I think earlier in one of Buzz's first scenes, we noticed that when Buzz was talking to Star Command, instead of using his wrist communicator, he's like pushing the red button on his suit, which I thought was weird. And he does it again in this scene. And I'm like, I thought his wrist communicator was how he communicated with Star Command.
Yeah, inconsistencies.
Yeah. They're doing some Avengers stuff where they just touch their ear and they can talk to anybody. that they want.
Yeah. I noticed too on Sid's backpack, you can see someone has written, I can't make out the first name, but it's someone McBarfala has cooties.
I believe it's Julie.
Oh, okay.
We had to, you forget, or maybe I'm sure you don't forget, we had to, zoom in and make sure we get everything that we could. So somewhere out there's a backpack I wrote Julie McBarford has cooties on it, and I'm pretty sure my brother used it at school for a little while.
That's funny. Yeah, all I could make out of the first name was the letter E.
Yeah, it's like Julie or June, but it's probably Julie. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Julie McBarfeld. I'm sure that's a reference to somebody in real life, I'm sure.
Somebody at Pixar?
Yeah.
Or like somebody's family member or something?
Probably.
Yeah. There's also a little drawing of like a hairy monster holding a comb.
There's so many fun stuff in Sid's room.
Well, Sid's room's mostly garbage. I'm sure this isn't the first clip that you've talked about Sid's room yet, but yeah, his room's mostly garbage. When we were making our movie, it was like a month of me just collecting garbage. Like, oh, well, I guess I'll keep this and just throw it in that room.
Did you guys try to like replicate any of the garbage in the room? Like, did you make any, like the grape soda cans and that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. I went and bought grape soda and drank a 12-pack of grape soda and crumpled up the can. Well, I didn't go as far as to, design a can and then crush it, but there's grape soda cans that are purple out there. So we, for most of the scenes and props and things, it was like, okay, I think that's a marker or whatever. So we just throw in something that looks close.
Yeah, whatever works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, yeah. And the Pizza Planet cups, yeah, those were designed.
Right. He is a frequent visitor of Pizza Planet.
Yeah. Woody's gasp when he jumps back into the bag. Speaking of Tom Hanks, great acting. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
His Let
me think if there's anything that I learned in making. Oh, we almost skipped straight past it because we're talking about Woody running up on the bed. I forgot about the major blooper. Jesse, do you know? Can you think of what it is just without watching it right now?
Without watching it, I feel like, does it have something to do with major blooper? It's nothing to do with the flashlight, is it?
No.
Okay.
The doll, the dress changes colors.
Oh, this is where it happens.
This is where it happens. So there's two shots. They're not back to back. Obviously, that'd be weird. But there's one shot, and then it cuts to Buzz and Woody watching them as they're grabbing the doll, and all the mutants are kind of fighting over the head and the body. And first, the dress is blue, as it was when we watched Sid work on it. And then for one shot, for some reason, it's pink. And that's like one of the actual errors of the movie. I mean, it's a flawless movie as far as I'm concerned, but I don't know. Maybe they had an Amish ideal thing. They can't actually make it perfect. Only God can make perfection, and we have to mess up somewhere. So might as well just do it here. I don't know.
That's funny. I never noticed that.
I never noticed the dress either, and that's because I've watched this movie like 10 million times.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, me too. And we were watching it and still not catching it until we went to remake it. And it was like, wait, this is... do we need to get a new dress now? Because this has changed. Like when it's an animated thing, I'm sure one person handled one scene, another person handled another one. Mm-hmm. But when we're collecting props, it's like, wait a second. Like it would actually be harder to make a mistake than it would be to not right now.
Right. Yeah.
I wonder if was one of Hannah's dolls like later in the tea party scene. Was it just like the same doll with the pink dress instead? Did they like accidentally use the wrong model or something in one shot?
Probably.
Yes, one of those dolls has a pink dress. Yeah, so maybe that's a good hypothesis.
Could be.
Still, it's forgiving because how many times have we watched this and not noticed? So
it's such a quick shot that it's not too noticeable.
Yeah, it's forgiven.
Yeah. Every time I hear the line, I've set my laser from stun to kill, it reminds me of one time, I think it was probably the summer Toy Story 3 came out on, my family was getting together for the 4th of July, and I don't know why, but for some reason, I brought one of my Buzz action figures.
Why not?
I mean, of course. I mean, why wouldn't you bring that to a family get together? And my cousins, who were like 5 and 3 at the time, just like when they saw him, they would keep repeating the line, "I've set my laser from stun to kill." And so now, whenever I hear that, I just think of my these little like 5 and 3-year-old girls repeating that line over and over again. I think they had just watched the movie recently. And
for some
I
reason,
guess
the most violent line is the one they remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's usually how it goes.
that one stuck with them. I think it's funny how like the whole time Woody has been like making fun of Buzz and not taking Buzz seriously, and then now that they're in danger, he wants Buzz to protect him, and then but the second that Buzz like starts like trying to use his laser again, he's like, "Oh yeah, never mind, you're an idiot."
Well, he does the same thing in the next clip that we'll talk about with shielding his eyes, but then a second later he's going to use your karate chop action. Like it's in the brief moment of panic, he's like, "Buzz, help!" "Oh wait, I got this." You're just you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. At 1 minute and 1 second, we cut to a shot of the exterior of Andy's house where Rex is shining a flashlight out the window and looking for Buzz. There's some rustling in the bushes, and Rex says, "Hey, you guys, I think I found him. Buzz, is that you?" There's a sound of a cat meowing, and Rex yells, "Whiskers, will you get out of here? You're interfering with the search and rescue." Mom's van pulls into the driveway, and Rex gasps, moving the flashlight so the light won't be seen, and whispers, "Look, they're home." They hear Andy get out of the car and ask his mom if she's seen Woody. He says he left Woody right there in the van, but now he's gone. Bo gasps and says, "Woody's gone?" Ham says the weasel ran away, and Mr. Potato Head takes it as evidence that he's guilty. Rex says, "Who would have thought he was capable of such atrocities?" Bo and Slinky look at each other sadly, and Bo says, "Oh, Slink, I hope he's okay."
And scene. Let's see.
One thing I could pull out of that bit is some really good setup for a later payoff of, see, where'd you find him? Right where I left him. Like, see what I tell you. So like, it's a sad thing, and I'm sure every kid's experienced that at some point. Like, what? Where's my whoever it is? Woody for me. Where'd they go? And it's like, oh, just you're not looking hard enough. Like that the whole conversation is a thing that parents and kids have had for many years, will continue to have. But the way that they bring it back at the end is really sweet. And so
and Mom throughout this whole movie has some great little momisms like that. Like, well, you're just not looking hard enough.
I remember when we were kids, my brother and I, we just for fun, we were writing down every single Toy Story character, and I just remember we even thought of putting Whiskers in there, the cat. Like we were just like, oh, that counts. Like every single character we could think of, and I don't know. I still think about that every time that scene plays. It's just
Whiskers.
how obsessed we were about naming every character. Like I still think about that, and I don't know. For some reason, I feel like the first time I watched it, in my mind, I think I thought that the toys could talk to the animals. For some reason I thought of Whiskers as Whiskers. In my mind, I thought that Whiskers knew the Toy Story gang, and
friends and whatever.
Yeah, they're friends. And it's like, Whiskers, stop. And I just remember as a kid being the cat can he can talk to the toys or something.
The cat talks too. Well, toys do talk to animals later. We see Buster later, they have relationships the way people do. They're just in on the secret that toys come alive. That's all.
I just remember way overthinking it for some reason as a kid. Oh, Whiskers, who's that? What's his story? How does he know the toys? I don't know.
There's some weird random kids books just based on Toy Story in different ways, and one of them has Whiskers in it. It's this Andy's cat, and he's just hanging out in the bathroom and swipes Buzz with his tail and knocks him into the toilet and stuff. This is a kid's book based on Toy Story.
Is
Whiskers makes an appearance. So it's like, one of the writers of a kid's book pulled that out too. And it's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to make this Andy's cat.
That's funny.
Who knows if that's actually canon or whatever, but still.
Yeah.
Is that in one of the comic books, or is it just some random
I don't know if it's one of those 5-minute Pixar book bedtime story things, or I think that's what it was, but an older one.
Okay. I have one of those books, but I don't remember that story. That's funny.
I want to say it's a white cover.
But
it's one of those that I've read with my son a few times.
How does no one in the neighborhood notice the bright light shining down from Andy's room and Rex yelling?
They might notice, but that's just that weird neighbor that always shines a flashlight around. The real question is how does Andy's mom not notice that she's driving back?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Well, we talked in the scene when Andy's friends are arriving for the birthday party, and the toys are messing with the blinds, opening and closing them. How did none of the kids coming into the house see what's happening?
Well, they could. Those are one of those things you could see it and just not care or not notice. There's Whiskers again banging against the window.
Right.
I think the funny thing, the first, all 3 Toy Stories, they're pretty good at if it's weird like that, it's at least a little bit believable.
There's 4, right?
Oh, I did say all 3 of them.
Yeah, well, I know we want to believe there's only 3.
Well, the reason I say that is because 4, they were not careful at all. They're running, they're sprinting across football fields and not trying to be seen.
We've talked about several times the scene where Buzz is in the Star Adventure game with Ducky and Bunny, and they're in full view.
Oh yeah,
of everyone at the carnival. It's just that they focus the camera just on the toys, so you don't think about that.
Well, Toy Story 2, the Al's Toy Barn is closed, so there you go. We can run around freely. But that carnival wasn't closed. I don't know what they were doing there.
We've talked several times about Bo in this movie, and specifically wondering what's going through her head as all of this is happening. Her boyfriend is being accused of murder, and it kind of comes up again with when she says, "Oh, Slink, I hope he's okay." Does she believe he's innocent, or does she not know she not sure what's going on? What is she thinking in this moment?
Yeah. Well, Bo and Slink are really the only toys at this point who still care about Woody a little bit. They were at the beginning of the movie his closest friends. And so it's just, I think, a moment to show they want to believe that he's not a murderer or whatever.
Yeah.
and they're, you can hope that someone's okay and still be worried that they're not a good person.
Yeah, that's true. Slinky just looks so sad.
Yeah.
In that part, I'm just oh, Slinky. I feel bad for him. Rex using the word atrocities is really funny for some reason.
Rex is the funniest character, I'll say. I watched the whole movie in theaters the other year ago because there was no new movies out, and so they thought, let's play things people like. And just sitting through it to enjoy it in a theater again, I remembered Rex is the funniest. He's just is.
Again, we've talked before about how apparently there's no light pollution in this town, because you can see there's a ton of stars in the sky, and you see it again here in this scene as it's transitioning from Andy's house to Sid's house and from nighttime to daytime.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stars in the sky.
It's very pretty. That's just movie magic. That's just because it's a Disney movie.
That's when the moon in a movie is always 3 times the size of moons in real life, just because you just gotta make it look pretty. I can go on about that.
About the moon being too big?
Yes.
Jesse, did you see the trailer of this movie about the moon being too big?
No.
It's crashing to Earth, and it's a big deal that the moon's coming to Earth, and I thought about you the whole time.
Wow, the only time a movie where it makes sense that the moon is way bigger than it should be.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
The
think.
moon is proportional in Toy Story, so that shouldn't be a problem for you.
No, Toy Story got it right. I hate it more in live action movies where like somehow they still show the moon. I mean, all right, I guess it doesn't happen as often in live action, but that's where it'd be really, really dumb.
What, like E.T.?
I guess so. Yeah.
It's just
Like
it's just the lens that they're using.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
It's for visual effect.
Moving on, at 1 minute 48 seconds, the camera pans over from Andy's house to Sid's house, and the scene changes from nighttime to the next morning. We see Sid saying, "Oh, a survivor. Where's the rebel base? Talk!" He throws Woody onto the ground and walks over to the window saying, "I can see your will is strong." And the 2-minute clip ends there.
Oh, we don't get the whole interrogation yet. But there's Star Wars reference number 2 in the next 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rebel base. Like, why does Sid... Well, I guess because he's a punk kid, but he decides he wants to be the Imperials that are interrogating, not the good guys. He doesn't want to be a Jedi. He wants to be the guys that interrogate the rebels.
Yeah. We in the scene where he does his surgery on Janie and the pterodactyl, we talked about how he must have seen like a bunch of medical dramas or things like that. No, he must have also been watching like a lot of Star Wars and a lot of like just generally like war movies, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Star Wars and ER, that's what Sid likes to watch. Well, so in our movie, some of the fun challenges was having child actors who aren't even actors to play the parts. And I remember distinctly, like, I'm never going to watch Toy Story the same, but this scene's always going to make me think of our kid, our actor, Victor, saying, what did he have to say? Just what's the line? It's, no one's ever attempted a double bypass brain transplant before. That's way too long for a 10 or 11-year-old kid to say. And he was 9, I think. So like, that was not something a 9-year-old says.
Right.
Unless they've been watching a lot of medical movies, dramas.
I guess
like
so. I guess so. But it is a lot of big words. That's all.
I think this is also the first time we see Sid's Megadork poster, which is of course a parody of Megadeth. Which Bianca,
I could talk for a second. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You have a Megadeth story, Bianca?
Well, she's the metalhead between the two of us.
I am the metalhead between the two of us, and I don't really have too terribly much to say about Megadeth because I'm more of a Metallica fan, and you know how they have like the whole like wars between the big four.
Mm-hmm.
I just never really got too into Megadeth, but I mean, you can safely call Dave Mustaine a Megadork, I guess. So that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I'll talk a second about how the shape of Sid's room is super weird. Because when we were filming, we didn't figure out what shape it is until it's not a normal, square
Definitely
rectangle
not.
room. Because there's a lot of corners, but they're in and out and around. So like this by the window, it was confusing the heck out of me when we were making this. Like, we have to have a wall here, but where is this wall? Eventually, like when we were cleaning up the room and wrapping filming in there is when I drew a picture as I think it's 2 squares that are stuck together kind of like this. And like, it's just really strange. And his room is at the top of the house. So the ceiling too is at an angle, like the top of an attic room would be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think we talked about in our last episode that we recorded that Sid's room just looks like an attic that they just like let him put all of his stuff in when they moved in. They're like, "Oh, you can have the attic."
He probably picked it, really.
Yeah.
Although the weird thing is, you see the hallway and you see which room his is when you go into it.
That's true.
Not like he goes up a ladder into the attic, but I guess Sid's whole house really is strangely shaped.
Yeah.
Well, we learned from Toy Story, the art and making of the animated film, that the design of it was based off of Pete Docter's attic, which was being renovated at the time. And the guy who modeled it, I think it was Eben Otsby, said that it was like easily one of the like weirdest designs, one of the weirdest things that he had to model in the whole film. Because just like the way the roof is cut, and just, it was very strange. And it just makes me think, I want to know what Pete Docter's attic looked like. I have, speaking of our sacred text, Toy Story, the art and making of the animated feature, I have some fun quotes about the mutant toys from that book, if you guys want to hear about that.
Yeah, give me one about Ducky. Ducky's my favorite.
I don't think I have any about Ducky, unfortunately. I don't think they mentioned him in the book, at least not that I saw. But on page 81, there's a quote from Ralph Eggleston that says, "The mutants are never inherently scary just to look at. After all, they're supposed to turn out to be helpful. They're simply supposed to look like toys ripped apart by a bratty bullying kid." And then again on page 81, it says, "Through pages upon pages of early concept designs by artists Bud Luckey and Bob Pauley, as well as by Joe Rampt and Jeff Pigeon, the Frankenstein feeling Lasseter was seeking eluded him. They were so darn cute," laughs the director. "They were too appealing. I kept saying, 'Bob, they're called mutant toys. Make me some toys that'll scare me.'" Bob Cohn, fresh from Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, came on board and, along with Ralph Eggleston, helped change the direction with some bizarre suggestions. Ralph's is the really sick stuff, Lasseter declares, and these preliminary ideas soon got everyone turned to the same twisted wavelength. And then later on, it says, "The beauty of the mutant characters is how well they serve story points, as well as boasting sheer graphic impact. The story staff had designed each mutant toy with some crucial task in mind that only that toy could perform in the Gulag Escape finale. Roller Bob, a soldier doll's upper half screwed to a skateboard, thus became a jet pilot complete with sun visor and crash helmet," says Lasseter, "and flies the escapees down the stairs and out into the backyard. Legs uses her shapely, high-heeled gams to steady the fishing rod that rescues Frog, whose roadster-style wheels make him fast enough to lure away Scud," and so on. And it goes on to say that the mutants were some of the last characters to be modeled and animated. "We had better software tools by the end of production than we had at the start when we built our main characters," says Eben Otsby. "That's how fast the technology is changing. In many cases, Eggleston and company raided the modeler's inventory of existing body parts to help speed along the production schedule. Among the familiar components in the mutant lineup, wrestler Rocky Gibraltar's torso is part of the bug driver, a mutant. The skateboard from Andy's room that Buzz uses in repairing his ship is the mobile base for Roller Bob. The corpse-like hand of the Jack-in-the-Box is Woody's own, blown up, bigger, and bedecked with longer fingernails, stitches, warts, and ugly green paint. But Eggleston is proudest of what the modelers did with the head of Molly, Andy's little sister. She's reborn as baby head. The technical staff just squished her head's X and Y coordinates, took an eye out, took the hair off, and put little holes in the head, sewed up the mouth, made the skin plastic, stuck it on an erector set, and there you go."
Well, that was one of the most horrifying sentences I've ever heard.
Well, we do know that at Pixar, well, pretty much any computer animated place, they got to reuse as much as they can. So it makes a lot of sense. That's why all of Andy's friends look just like him.
And, and all the kids at Pizza Planet.
Well, every kid in the world, I think, looks like him. But wow, that's neat.
Yeah. All the boys look like Andy, and the few girls that there are look like Sid's sister, Hannah. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to say about this clip that we haven't touched on yet?
Well, we could talk a little bit about the mutants. I don't want to go too long, but for our movie, we had to make them. So I made a couple, and Jesse's brother made a couple. Same brother who's writing lists of every character. And so if I'm thinking about it, like I made them to be functional. They might not have been as pretty as Michael's. But when he made his, so he made like Frog. Oh, what's his name? His name's Frog. The Frog.
I think it's just Frog.
The Frog that gets winded, and like Ducky. And they looked perfect, but they kind of broke when we were making the movie, so I had to keep gluing things back together. So like mine were a little more rough looking, but they were they survived a little longer. And the only one that was sold in any store was Babyface. Like, how come? I mean, I guess because he's the leader. He's the coolest.
Yeah, he's the one that everyone like thinks of.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And just that they all have real names. Some of them you hear when Woody's telling his plan. Roller Bob and I don't move till we get single legs here, Ducky here. But like for some reason people think that Legs' name is Hooker or something like that. That's not her name. And Spider Baby.
Yeah. One of the weirdest pieces of Toy Story merchandise I've ever seen was a wallet from Hot Topic that had a picture of the car with legs.
Yes.
And that just says, "What?" in all caps with like 3 question marks. It was very strange. I saw it on Hot Topic's website one time, and I was like,
I've
what?
Seen that. Not in real life. I've also seen that when searching for a new wallet. Yeah. Pump Boy. Like, his name is Pump Boy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. I just pulled it up.
I was like, of all the Toy Story characters to put on a wallet, that just seemed like a very strange choice.
Yeah. That's one that you could just show somebody and be like, what movie is this from? And people would be like, I don't know.
So before we finish out, we're going to ask you guys a couple of questions. I think Jonason is going to go first, and then in the next episode, Jesse will answer the same questions. But
we want people to come back to the next episode, so they got to anticipate something.
Yes. Yeah. So, Jonason, what is your history with Toy Story, and which one out of the 4 would you say is your favorite?
I was almost 3 years old when Toy Story came out, and I don't remember that because I was only 2. But my parents had told me we went to the theaters and watched it more than a couple times. And I do remember buying the VHS and watching that when I was, 3.5 or so. And I loved it since then. I thought I wanted to be a cowboy when I grew up, and then I thought, no, maybe an astronaut. And then I realized, no, somebody made this movie, and that's what I want to do. I want to make movies. So Toy Story is the thing. Like, I'm sure most of the filmmakers who made Toy Story obviously were inspired by Star Wars and things like that. Toy Story was the movie that kind of set me on a path to make movies. And obviously, we took that kind of literally and remade Toy Story ourselves. So that was sort of an experiment in movie making ourselves, and just to see how it would turn out if we could do it, and to hopefully get better at our craft. And it turns out a few million people liked it. So, that's the shortest version of it. I played with those toys all the time. I treated them the way Andy does. And then, like, I remember watching Toy Story 2 for the first time in theaters. I remember I went to Pixar just by chance. They had like a special screening of Toy Story 3 a week before it came out. And so it's like, I got to see that somehow. So we went, I went with my dad, and we watched that as well at Pixar. And this was all before we made our version. So it was a very special movie to me. 1 is by far my favorite. I mean, I wouldn't say by far because 2 is super duper close. They're both 100% in my mind. I think Rotten Tomatoes got it right. But 1, of course, is extra special to me because I've had to remake every shot of it. So, but I could never watch it again the same way as before we made ours, because now I'm going to think about the memories attached to each day of shooting. And it's very special to me. So I'm glad to be able to talk about it with you guys.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Tune in next time to hear me try to say something as close to the emotional impact of that.
Well, I guess, is there anything that you guys would like to plug before we sign off?
I suppose you could watch our other stuff. So since live action Toy Story came out, we've spent a lot of time working on videos for YouTube, both YouTube style, such as a talk show, and our short films. We've made a lot of short films since then, and even during and before then. We just like working on movies, and so Toy Story was a nice big step forward. And so check out some of the other ones where we actually wrote a script instead of copying something.
Yes, everyone go check that out. They have some really great stuff.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Yes.
I'm especially happy with the last year. We did 2 short films that I was very happy with, and had some help from some really professional friends. So if you're watching Toy Story because you love animation or filmmaking in some way, I'd say just do it yourself. You don't have to make Toy Story, but make something creative and take what you like about Toy Story and put it in there. And so we strive to do. Take this. It can be funny. It doesn't have to be childish, but it can be something kids enjoy. And just make something good. That's what Toy Story taught me.
That sounds like a great way to end this episode.
Great. I'm glad I meet your standards.
Well, thank you guys again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
I guess if we're done, then I'll just say thanks for listening, everyone. Be sure to follow our Facebook and Twitter accounts and send us an email if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns. And if you enjoy the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Hey, send them an email if you ever noticed that the dress changed colors before today when you heard it.
Yes, do that.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.